All right, guys,
Yep.
welcome back to the podcast. I'm super excited to have Amanda with Hustle and Heart Real Estate, top 1% realtor in the country, philanthropist, traveler. What else did you say? Mother and adventurer. That's what it said. Adventurer. I love it.
Yep.
And you go by Miss Mandy as well. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys, and I'm happy to be here.
And
Miss Mandy.
Betty Jo, thank you for introducing me to Miss Mandy, Amanda. The only reason I know you, I mean, I've known who you are, right? We're in real estate, but I feel like I know you so well because Betty's like, hey, you got to meet this chick. She's so much fun. I love her. So that's why I started following you more and more on Facebook. And anyways, I feel like I know you really well, but we've only hung out like twice.
Yep.
Which is funny.
Yep.
But I know you. I know who
Yes.
you are. I know
Thank
what
you.
you're about.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited to have someone with your caliber and someone who shares your love and your heart so much, and you're kind of an open book, which I feel like really helps people. And that's the goal of this podcast is like, if you're going through shit and you can share how you've overcome it, that's going to help other people.
Absolutely.
And you and I and Betty have actually been on somewhat similar trajectories these last few years, going through life changes that have been tough. And I want to start the podcast off with something you put on Facebook today, actually, that really resonates very, very well with the podcast. So I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And then I want you to tell me what's behind that little
Okay.
post that you did. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is from Miss Mandy. Miss Mandy's motivational moment. That was 6 days ago.
Okay. Yep.
That's a lot. Okay. So 6 days ago, but I just saw it today. I was scrolling through your stuff, making sure I knew everything or had it top of mind, but I really liked it. So here we go. This is what you wrote. There are times in our lives where everything feels out of order and chaotic, times where we feel alone, overwhelmed, uncertain, unappreciated, unbalanced, and just an overall feeling of despair and fear. These are the times I believe the universe is guiding us to find the stillness within our own solitude, to search for the answers as to why things feel, seem, or are this way. It's hard sometimes to be introspective without guilt, shame, or judgment, which that resonated, of ourselves or that of others, but it's necessary for what it is that lies within the lessons that are to be learned from thereof. To be honest with ourselves about where we are, where we want to be, how to get there, where to go, and what to do and what not to do is not always easy unless you go around life wearing rose-colored glasses or not willing to be accountable for yourself and actions. Growth usually comes from sources or situations of pain, sadness, and some would even say from the suffering within it all. I call these moments shit trenches. I love that. Great analogy, shit trenches.
Yeah.
And I have found myself in them time and time again. I feel as that is how we grow, connect, learn, compassion, and evolve. At the bottom of each shit trench, there are always golden nuggets to be found. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, the golden nuggets to be found. And if you're searching and being productive with how the universe teaches us, and you show up and do the work, you will find them. They are simply opportunities to grow. And it goes on a little bit more, but that's really one of the reasons I wanted you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because you've been an open book. I've seen a little bit of what you're going through. I don't know a lot of the details, but you have an amazing reputation. You've built a huge brand, which congratulations.
Thank you.
And guys, if you're looking to buy or sell homes in Utah, Betty and I are realtors, but Amanda and her team are amazing as well. So they come highly recommended. And I was also looking through your post, and you have all these clients saying, Amanda's the best, which that's awesome. That's one thing that happens with Betty as well. Her clients are like, oh, we love Betty.
Yep.
And I wish I had more of that, you know.
Oh, I'm
So-
sure you do.
You do.
I'm
I
sure
get
you
it.
do.
I get
You
it
do.
here and there. But tell me about that post, the shit trench post.
Yes. So, it's just times in our life, exactly like what I said. And I've just been going through a lot. I think we all are, right? Like you said, we've all been going through a lot within the last couple of years. COVID hit. The real estate market definitely took a different trajectory than it's been on in the last several years.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I'm going through a not so pleasant divorce, and that's still in the works, going on 2 years. And I've been with my husband for 18 years. And that was hard enough in itself to actually throw in the towel after so many attempts of trying to make it work.
Yeah.
And imagining my life without being the wife.
Mm-hmm. That's way tough.
And then in addition to that, like the market shift, it was like everything felt like it was crumbling in my health as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I can see it for what it is now, which is it was all happening for me. I don't
Mhm.
think that had the market not shifted, I ever would have had the time to really sit with myself and finish what I started as far as things coming to an end.
Yeah.
I think I would have kept kicking that can down the road, and because I
Wow.
didn't have the time and the space to deal with it. You know, when you're
Yeah.
working 85 hours a week, you know, on the regular,
Mhm.
it's hard to make yourself a priority because you're just kind of going through the motions for your family. You know, that was some of the sacrifices I made for my family, was to work that hard to provide us, you know, the best I possibly could in the name of love. But
Right.
um,
It's interesting how you probably needed a change
yeah,
and you probably weren't going to do it yourself,
no,
It
but
was
it
it was the
happened.
medical stuff that hit you first, right?
no, it was the separation, then the market, right around the same time, and then the medical stuff, the gallbladder stuff came after.
Wasn't it? But rewind.
Uh-huh.
Didn't you get your
Yes,
implants removed?
my implants
that
removed.
was before,
Oh yeah, years.
and
Yeah.
you were still like couldn't figure out what was going on.
Do you know what I think it was, Betty? Is I think that your body will speak to you in ways.
For sure.
And I knew for many years that the divorce was probably necessary.
Yeah.
But I kept trying everything and anything I could to make it work.
Interesting.
You know, and I would have to go to my kids and apologize. Like, Mom doesn't know if what she's doing is right. Mom doesn't know if what she's doing is wrong. But she's trying her very best to do the best for the family as a whole. And so know that even as an adult, I don't have it all figured out, but I definitely am trying my best for us. And I think my body and my soul definitely spoke to me in ways showing me that I wasn't in alignment with where I was supposed to be and destiny. But I also at the same time couldn't live with myself had I not tried absolutely fucking necessary
Right.
to know that I gave it my all.
I love that.
But I gave so much of myself, I almost gave myself.
Right.
Wow.
It's like you were willing to sacrifice your entire body and life, and the universe was like,
In the name of love.
That's so
yeah.
interesting.
I've always said I've been faithful to a fault, right? And I love hard and I hurt hard. And it shows up in those ways.
Yeah.
And
You're
I've
very
been-
passionate
yeah,
and so what's interesting when you say that is I was in the exact same scenario.
okay.
I would have not ended my marriage.
Yeah.
My ex in 2020 said, "Hey, I'm done."
Right.
And I was like literally lining up marital counseling about all these books. Like I was miserable.
Yep.
I had wanted a divorce for years, but I would not do it. I
Yep.
would not leave her because I felt like she needed me. I needed to be a really good husband. I was crushing it in business and I was there home with the kids. Like I was doing everything humanly possible. And I actually met with a therapist and she goes, "You need to pull back. You need to let her do more." I was like, "It'll cause a divorce." And she goes, "You need to do it." I was basically at the point where I would work myself to death to make it work, right? That's who I was. And I was
Right.
proud to be, I didn't cheat on her.
Yep.
I was miserable. It was not a good place. The marriage was not good for either of us. And I was a work from home dad, taking care of the kids, building a business, and very unfulfilled,
Mhm.
very, very hollow
Mhm.
inside, very, very hollow and unfulfilled. And yet that was who I was. I felt like I would not ever fail as a husband. I refused. I would
Mhm.
not give up.
Mhm.
And that says a lot about who you are.
Thank you. You know, my dad told me this quote, and it was very interesting, and it hit me. He says, "Well, honey, let me tell you, there's givers and there's takers in this world, and you've always been a giver."
Mhm.
You know, and I was like, yes. But you know what? Throughout this journey, when we're talking about one of the golden nuggets, what I realized in order for my life to be fulfilled, because I was lacking that too. I felt like I was in a one-sided partnership where I was doing and doing and doing the kids, that, you know, doing it all. with no appreciation, no gratitude, almost a
Right.
sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
What I did never felt enough. You know,
Right.
I never felt enough.
There was never a thank you, Amanda, for doing all this
no.
for us. Thank you.
No,
You're
it was
amazing.
never
I see your
appreciated.
sacrifice. I see you.
Yes. And in fact, it was quite the opposite.
You know, I remember myself, I was doing some pretty big deals, and we had lost a huge amount of income. In late 2020, I had this deal under contract in Little Rock, Arkansas, apartment building, and the seller had lied about and hit a bunch of foundation issues. And then you're in real estate, you guys understand that's a huge
It's a big
issue.
deal. Yeah.
You
It's your
hide
foundation.
stuff. It's your
If you have a cracked foundation,
It's like
you don't have a good
180
house.
doors. It's a big apartment complex, and all of them had found. I had flown there, spent like 20 grand on attorneys, on flights, on inspections, and I had it under contract for a month and a half already by the time I made it out there, and you know, that was about 180,000 in income, and I had already lost all my income previously when COVID started, so this is the second big loss in 2020, huge loss for me.
Wow.
And I had been downstairs in my office negotiating with attorneys and with my partners all day long, finally to just kill the deal and lose that income. And I walked upstairs to dinner with my kids, and all I got was I told the story. I'm like, hey, we just lost 100. Just to me, my partners also lost, but just to me, 180,000 in income. And I was like, oh, cool. Can you make sure you do the dishes, and can you do this, this, and this, and this? I'm exhausted, and you didn't do this yesterday, so can you please do that? And I was like, did you
Yeah.
not hear? Like I've been killing myself. And at that time, because I had so many deals fall apart in 2020, I was painting houses on the weekend to make ends meet and trying to get my multifamily business started. And so it's interesting. Betty sent me a quote a while back. They can predict when someone's going to get divorced by if you share something either positive or negative, and there's no empathy and there's no connection. There's no, oh my God,
Yeah.
you just lost 180,000.
Yep.
Your deal fell apart because of someone was dishonest.
Yep.
Tell me about that. That's so hard. I'm so sorry for you. That must
Yep.
be frustrating. How are you feeling?
Mm.
Instead, there's none of that. Or
I think
hey,
the quote was, when you walk in the door and you cannot connect and say, wow, my day was so freaking hard, and you're not acknowledged for that.
Yeah.
It's your day was hard. Oh, like my day was way harder.
Yeah.
exactly.
And there was a comparison of like,
Now it's a competition,
it's
Yeah.
right? Did
Yeah.
it ever feel like a competition to you, where it was
Yeah.
like competing with you for the? It's like, I don't need a competition. I need connection.
I need connection.
Yeah.
I need compassion.
Exactly.
I need gratitude. I need to feel safe
when you
as
yes.
a woman.
empathy and
I think-
love, right?
And I need to feel safe and secure. And a lot of circumstances in our industry, because it's never done till it's done.
Right.
Is there isn't security until a
Well,
deal's done.
Yeah.
And I think, I know for women mostly, but feeling safe
It's a
is
need.
the number one need that
Mhm.
that you have.
Security.
You have to feel safe.
It's safety and
Like,
security.
Doesn't
Yep.
matter how much money you make. Doesn't matter like what your accomplishments are. At the end of the day, you want to know that you are safe.
Yep.
And when you come home, even if you did nothing that day, to know that you can connect and be like, oh man, this is how I feel today.
Yeah.
And to not feel compared,
Yeah.
just acknowledged, feel safe, and
Yeah.
feel loved.
See, and I never, which comes through protection and providing for, right?
Mhm.
You want someone else to help protect you and help provide for the family.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't get those things, and in fact, it's like, I'm going to war for our family every day, and I'm
Mhm.
coming home and I'm fighting a war again.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the health
Yeah.
issues were, is
Yeah.
I was at war for us.
Yeah.
And then he was at war with me, against me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was burning the wick at both ends. And that's why I finally waved my white flag.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, God, like, I surrender to this circumstance, because when I didn't surrender, I was suffering in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
My connection to my family, and I can't get into everything on this just because it's still ongoing, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot that I could share with you privately at another time, because I value our relationship. But it's hard to let people in when the one person you love, you want to protect. So I was protecting him while he was not.
Yeah.
And quite the opposite.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And it just injures your soul, you know.
And that's what was happening. That's why
That's
my
like-
body
that's
started
literally-
shutting down.
That's
Yeah.
literally how we connected, because you had this front of like success,
Yes.
like rebranding, like
Yep.
Everyone
you-
loves Amanda.
like
yeah.
Yes.
Amanda, like you look at her and it's just like
She's got it together.
unapologetically authentic, you know, helping people. She's a huge advocate in her community. Like she literally collects coats and has a coat rack outside for homeless.
Mhm.
They can just like bring
that's
something,
awesome.
drop it off. Like she's a huge giver. And I think I reached out. Well, I think I flip houses. So she had asked me, hey, like, could you help me with, like, what do you think about this? It was the weirdest, like, just knowing each other in the industry, but we weren't friends.
Right. Right.
But we had a like a connection,
Beautiful
an
connection.
understanding. And I went to your house
Mhm.
to talk about backsplash.
Yes. Yes.
And I think I looked at you and I was like, you have sad eyes. Like something's going on. Like, do you feel like sharing?
Mm-hmm.
And to hear like what was really happening,
Yeah.
it was like, oh man, like you gotta express this or it's gonna
Yeah.
destroy you.
Yeah.
And you were sick.
Yeah, I was sick. You know, it's interesting you say that. I look back on pictures, you guys, throughout this, and my soul was gone.
Mhm.
Even though I am authentic and I'm whatever, I told you guys I don't share until I make it through
Mhm.
or I've learned the lesson. And that's just who I am, right? Because I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or I'm negative or whatever. So I always try to bring light to the situation.
love
Like,
that.
here's my hardship, but here's what I learned. And you know what I mean? I don't think you have to share in the moment all the time
Well,
because,
instead of being a victim, you're, hey, this was really fucking hard,
yes,
and here's how it improved my life. Here's what I
Yes.
learned
Yeah.
from it.
yes,
Because everyone likes to share bad news.
right.
Most people don't want to get over it and share how they benefited from it or how they
Yes.
overcame it. That's actually
Yeah.
the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's the reason I rebranded my podcast completely,
Mm.
because I started having these deeper conversations. Instead of talking about real estate investing for 90 episodes,
Yeah.
I switched it up later on, and people would message me and be like, wow, that was a great story. I can't
Yeah.
believe that happened to that person. That's what I'm going through.
Right.
And it was, and you can help people that way. But not only that, you help yourself by having that type of an attitude
Yes.
of, hey, I'm not just going to complain, bitch, and moan and be a victim.
hmm
I'm going to say, this was really fucking hard.
Right.
This almost destroyed me.
Right.
I was not happy. I was sick.
Right.
And here's how I'm doing better. And here's how I overcame it. Because
Amen.
that gives hope and
Amen.
happiness to people.
Yeah.
Well, and it's because you feel like you're on an island alone. When you're going through that,
Mhm.
like you don't want to share, especially if you are someone who aspires to inspire. You know
I
what
was
I mean?
embarrassed.
But also I inspire through,
Mhm.
sharing.
Yeah.
So it's always been who I am. But I also know that there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
Going back to like the way it made me feel in those moments is looking back on those photos where I was sick and use the sad eyes. And I look back on all those photos and I didn't feel safe to be home. You know, they say there's fight, flight, or freeze. And my soul was gone. Like I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I was sick. My body was inflamed.
Yeah.
My eyes were dark and sad. Like
Yeah.
there was just so many signs looking back now, but I had to remove myself from that situation and cut the cancer out to save the rest
Yeah.
of me, to be able to see that, And so now it's like, oh, I remember looking in the mirror, you guys, and I remember seeing my soul again.
Yeah.
Like I remember looking in the mirror
Wow.
and being like, oh my God, there you are.
Wow.
Like I missed you,
Yeah.
but I did what I had to do to like survive. But I'm not just a survivor. I am a thriver. And going back to victim, I'm never a victim. I'm always a participant.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of power in that.
yeah. And I will never hand my power over to anyone else outside of me ever again.
Yeah.
And that way. And I'm still trusting. I'm still vulnerable. I'm still loving. I'm still all those things. I'm
Yeah.
just a little bit smarter about it.
I love that.
I will never be faithful to a fault and sacrifice myself or my soul in the name of love again. My best friend is me now. I've always been about self-love, but I had to truly practice what I preached. And that was the hardest to do when I was loving him and my marriage more than I was
More.
loving myself.
Talking about losing yourself and giving too much of yourself. I mean, the religion I was raised in, and also just my surroundings and everyone, that kind of the way I built my idea of myself as a husband was, even said in my patriarchal blessing, it said, your wife will need you to be a support to her, and she will need you to lift her up. And so my whole idea of myself was like, I got this. I'm fucking killing it as a husband. I'm making $1 million a year. She can have a nanny. She can have a house cleaner. She can have this. She has whatever she needs. And I stay at home and I work at home so I can be with the kids all day in between appointments. And so I had all these ideas, and like I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But this whole idea of giving yourself and giving and giving and giving. Giving is really great, and I want to teach my kids charity, absolutely.
Right.
But you got to have minimum standards. You can't lose yourself in giving to others.
Yes.
And happiness is really, really important.
I think,
It's a happy medium. I feel like there's people that take and I interviewed Betty a few days ago, and she had an adopted Grandpa Bob, who gave of himself huge way. Just gave and gave and gave to others, and was an amazing person. And then you have people that are takers. So how do you be a giver like Grandpa Bob? We kind of had this motto that we came up with on Friday: be like Grandpa Bob. But how do you be a giver without letting the takers take everything from you? And that leads me into my next question: is minimum standards and ideas. When I was really miserable, I didn't feel like I was loved, and actually. Was told I wasn't loved in my marriage.
Sorry.
And I had this idea of I don't know, it was probably 2020, right as I was getting divorced. I was like, man, it'd be really fun to date a really pretty girl
Just kidding.
who was actually really into me. Because I had never really, I had that first couple of years of my marriage, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
We were married 12 years. How cool would it be to date a really pretty girl and actually have her super into me? And then I started dating, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of crazy people out there. But I met Betty, and I was like, wow, really pretty girl. She's super loving. This is really fun.
Yeah.
And this is now we've been together over 2.5 years.
Congratulations.
And now I've got all these.
You said 2.5. It's 3 years next month.
Well, we officially started dating July 4th-ish. When I said, you're my girlfriend, and you're like, okay, fine, I'll be your girlfriend.
I didn't want a label.
She didn't want a
Wasn't ready
label.
for that.
We're both
I
in
know
the
what you
middle
mean.
of divorces at the
Yeah.
time, so it's understandable. But some of my minimum standards now is she better be freaking into me.
Yeah.
And she better be supportive and loving about what I do and how much I give. And I actually took a personality test after my divorce. And it said the most crazy thing about me. It said, you're a huge giver, but you need a little bit of gratitude and recognition. And if you don't get that, it's a problem for you. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I love giving to others, and I don't give because I want appreciation.
Yeah.
But when I give in a huge way and people don't appreciate, it's a fucking problem.
Yep.
I love sincere gratitude, but I love to give more. But if I don't get gratitude, it is an issue. And I didn't realize that was a need. And I took that personality test. I was like, wow, that's a new minimum standard. They better be able to know how to show gratitude. Mm-hmm.
That is my promise to myself.
Yeah.
Is I'm not going to fucking love to a fault anymore.
I love that.
And if I am, it's going to be to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my kids and my business. And you know what I mean? And when I want to on my terms, and not because it's expected of me, but because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm willing to walk away from anything that is disingenuine or disempowering to me.
I love that.
I've had nothing. I've been homeless in the past. I don't
Wow.
know if you know this.
I don't know that,
yes,
no.
I was homeless to building myself and my business up to where I am. And it's I've
Wow.
had everything and I've had nothing. But one thing was constant is I am always me. I will always keep it real, and I will never sell out
Wow.
for any price.
I love that.
My soul is not for sale. I'll do stupid things in the name of love, but not to that point anymore.
Yeah.
So going back to relationships and being the giver. I don't even like to say that anymore because or words have power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am an excellent giver and an amazing receiver now. And
Nice.
I am willing to give everyone everything as long as they somewhat mirror match. So in my mind, I see it as all my relationships need to be a healthy give and a take in order
Mhm.
for the energy to flow and in order for my the relationship to maintain healthy, right? Because no one wants to be a giver and no one wants to just be a receiver. Like that's really not
It's not
what
healthy.
anyone truly wants. Because I promise you, my ex and probably your ex and your ex they weren't truly happy with
No.
even receiving that much, even though our intentions were well.
They were miserable.
They were miserable themselves. Now, whether or not that was our intentions versus what happens, I like to go back to that old saying, idle hands are the devil's playground.
Yeah.
And I believe that when we give someone too much and make it too easy and they don't have to show up for themselves or anyone else, it's not good for anyone.
It's literally my worst fear as a parent.
Yes, you can't spoil them. You can spoil someone rotten.
Yeah.
I watched
A
it.
lot of parents do.
I watched an amazing man turn into my worst fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And that was never my intentions, but I will take accountability in maybe not letting him show up as a man because I handled it all with good intentions.
Yeah.
I did. I fucking did it all. Like, okay, fuck you. You want to cry? You want to complain? I'll just do it all. I'll just do it all. And next time I don't ask and you want to be needed, but I can't count on you when I need you. So I have to do it myself. So this is an us thing, an us problem
It's
Yeah.
like no.
that we tried all the things to get help for. We tried marriage counseling. We tried ketamine therapy. We tried all the things, many retreats, many, the vacation, all of it.
Yeah.
And I just think that some relationships, whether it's friends, family, whatever it is, there's relationships for a season, a reason, and a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And the most beautiful thing I got from that was our children.
Yeah.
But also, there was 12 years before the last 6 of it being terrible that were amazing.
Oh, that's great.
And I will tell you, it was like the story Beauty and the Beast backwards.
Okay.
I met the Prince Charming, and then I left the Beast.
Wow.
And that was the hardest fucking part because I knew what it could be
Yeah.
because it once was.
Yeah. See, I didn't
But I
really
also-
have that.
I also knew the person that I left was not the same man that I married.
Yeah.
And neither am I. We all grow.
Sure.
But I think over time, I was growing. I was on this mission. I've been through a lot in my
went through
past.
different paths.
And
changed.
I had a lot of golden nuggets.
So
He
let-
didn't have a lot of that.
Oh, let me ask you this, and I think that's on the same topic, and I'm going to ask you the same thing, Betty.
Okay.
There's 2 types of kind of divorces I'm seeing right now. People
Yep.
who grew apart, or maybe they're still both growing, but one's growing way faster, finding all those nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Mine, I felt like, was this. Or you should have just never been married in the first place, but
Yeah.
you fell in love and you didn't know yourself well enough. You didn't understand relationships well enough. You didn't understand life well enough. And you were attracted to each other and maybe you should have just never been married in the first place. I have a few friends like that who
Yeah.
they both tried really hard.
Yeah.
They're just not a good match, and everyone can see it. And then there's people that grow apart. Which
Yeah.
one are you?
We grew apart in different directions. I felt like the more I became certain of who I was and why I was here and my purpose and all the things and overcame a lot and kind of the more I knew who I was,
Mhm.
the more he knew who he was not.
Wow.
And I felt like every time I was growing, and I wanted to bring us up, right? Like that was my goal. Like, bro, you want to
Yeah.
bring your
Share.
family with you. You
Exactly.
love them. Like,
Yeah.
hello, like I didn't marry you and have children with you and this life to leave you behind. That was
Right.
never an inclination. But I think his subconscious probably felt that way.
Yeah.
And that was his shit, not mine.
Or there was guilt or
Yeah.
something.
I think there was a lot of things.
Why do you think husbands, and I'm saying husbands, I'm not going to apologize,
Yeah.
because I've seen it almost exclusively with husbands. Some of my investors, and let me give you a precursor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my investors are extremely successful realtors. And so I have a very unique perspective here.
Mhm.
I have about just under 100 investors that have invested with me in the last 5 years. Some of them making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million as a married woman with kids. They fucking kick ass.
Mm-hmm.
Some here in Utah, most of them across the country. and their husbands are making 100, 150, 200,000 a year. Like, why go to work at that point? You know, like, so
Yeah.
yeah, they're successful. 100,000 is great.
Yeah, I was going to say that's still a
It's
lot
still very successful.
when you
That's
look
still
at the
really,
national
really great.
average.
But you meet these guys, and I've seen it a ton where they really are self-conscious and unsupportive
Mm-hmm.
of these women who are just crushing it.
I can tell you it did happen in my marriage. It was really hard. And I use everything in analogy. So I'm a very visual person. See it, touch it,
Perfect.
feel it, taste it. But it was like, I'm like this helium balloon that was growing. And he was back home and he had the bottom of the string. And anytime I would grow too much, he would yank me down.
Yeah.
And yank me down and to where he was still comfortable. I didn't feel left behind. And although I was never leaving him, I was trying to take us with, but obviously you
Yeah.
have to do the work. And I would, you know,
Yep.
he knew that. I would voice that in a very nice way as best I could without blaming and shaming. Sometimes that string would snap and we'd tie it back together. Well, what happens every time you get in a situation like that is that string gets shorter and shorter.
Mhm.
Every little thing is a big thing.
Mhm.
So absolutely over time, he was completely insecure with my success. In the beginning, he was my cheerleader.
Mhm.
But then over time, he realized he told me several years ago, and I quote, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. This time we were 35.
It's like they lost their
Okay.
purpose.
And it was like, what do you mean when we grow up? Like, I'm 35. Like, I want to retire in 5 to 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to work really hard now while I'm young and why I'm going to cook while the griddle's hot with that market. And I'm trying, like, to get us somewhere, but also at the same time, I didn't allow him to be the stay-at-home dad,
Yeah.
right? It was you do these things, and then over time, all of a sudden, I have a maid and I have a nanny and I have all these things that I'm paying for because I wanted to avoid the fight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because no matter what I did, it wasn't enough.
Oh, avoid the fight. That's triggering for me.
Oh,
That's a triggering
and it
term.
sucks because every time
Holy
you do
cow.
that, it's just building up for the future.
I have never been triggered in a podcast, and you just trigger the shit out of me.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Because you know what
that's
that
great.
gives
That's
you?
great.
You know what that gives you? Because you're in a space where it's safe right here.
Yeah,
Especially with other people that are like-minded, that have been through it. What a trigger is unhealed trauma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the beautiful thing is you can recognize that, you can admit that, and now you can work through that. And now you have somebody to work through it with you that
For
can
sure.
be able to hold that safe space for you. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's just another opportunity to grow,
It's a
honey.
great opportunity.
It's a
Thank
golden
you.
nugget in your
Well,
trigger.
and it perfectly describes one of my friends' marriages.
Yeah.
I found out like they never discussed things, and I knew it. Like I knew because I was really good friends with her, and I was really good friends with him. They both complained to me, and I'm like, I don't think they talk. Like,
It's so hard.
and I found out after they got divorced, yeah, they never talked. They avoided the fight.
Yeah.
I had the
They
opposite.
See,
just
and
buried stuff.
I didn't avoid the fight per se. It's just it gets to a point where comprehension is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying is not what he was hearing.
Mm-hmm.
He heard his own triggers and his own traumas, and he wasn't
Mhm.
willing to it would react in rage and rah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was never, then I didn't feel safe. So it's just
Right.
like you then just shut down.
Yeah.
And that's when my soul just left its body and was like, I don't know what to do, but I was trying to do all the things still.
I was about to say, but you were doing everything. You were avoiding the fight because that's
Yeah.
why you had the nanny. That's why you did X, Y, and Z. That's why you made the money you did.
Yeah.
That's why you did. You were
Yeah.
absolute, and that's what I was doing. That's what Betty was doing. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I helped with my babies a ton.
Yep.
When Liam was born, my 6-year-old, I had him until 10 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
I have
Aw.
pictures of him in my arms, me typing at my computer, writing up contracts, right? Which I loved. Like
Yeah.
that was actually fun for me.
Yeah.
So Betty's like, man, I don't know what it's like to have somebody that took care of the babies. And it's like, if you're out making $200,000-300,000 a year, like I said, I'll take care of the baby. I'll feed
Yeah.
her. Oh, like I don't have boobs, but
Yeah.
pump and I'll feed her. You know.
Which I love because
Yeah.
you know what? That speaks volumes of you.
Yeah.
And I always go back to this, like, what is someone's intentions?
Mm-hmm.
Is their intentions to be difficult? Is the intentions to hurt you? Is the intentions to be malicious? What is
Are
their
their intentions to be a good partner?
right? Yes, there you go. On the good side, are they showing up in ways showing that their intention is to be that man that they
Yeah.
promised you at the altar or that
Yeah.
woman,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I look and base it off of. And it started to be like, no, the intentions were vindictive, malicious, hurtful,
Self-serving, essentially.
spiteful, very, very, and I don't even know that it served him well.
Yeah.
I think there was no self-love. So how
Yeah.
can I expect love from someone who can't even and does not love himself?
Right. You're now learning how to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Betty and I have had a therapist that we work with
Good.
to have those conversations. We're going weekly for a while.
Yep.
And we need to pick that back up again. She's really awesome. Her name's Erica. I'm
Aw,
actually going to give her a free sponsorship of the podcast.
I love
She's
that.
awesome. I'm interviewing her on here. But, one thing that I think you learn when you've been in one of those relationships, and I've had business relationships where I have minimum standards. Actually, let me preface this minimum standards talk with a business relationship I was in. There was greed, there was dishonesty, and it just wasn't fun.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other people on my team came up with a motto, and it was, you can put up with a lot of shit for $1 million a year. And I was like, that is true,
Mm-hmm.
because not a lot of people can make $1 million a year. And when you're in that,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, yeah, the golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
But it felt terrible. And when I
Yeah.
finally was out of that partnership, my now ex-wife was so happy for me.
Yeah.
Even though our $1 million payday was over,
Yeah.
she knew it was killing me. And from that point on in my business relationships, I set standards. You have to be fun to work with. It's really fucking important to me.
Yep.
You have to be really honest and have integrity.
Yes.
And just be a good person and good at what you do.
Yeah.
And because $1 million a year was fun, and I've done it a couple times, and I've done it with good partners, I've done it with really shitty partners who I
Yep.
felt were greedy and dishonest. And I would rather make $500,000 a year or $250,000 a year, but be happy
Yes.
and feel like I'm with
100%.
people that are honest and have integrity, and not be put in a hard spot
Yes.
by people who are not.
So, what I love about that is, yes, I am learning that, and I've learned a lot. And I am not, if someone is deceitful or disrespectful or dishonest with me and they are not honest or don't have integrity, I don't have space for them in my life.
Mhm.
And it does not matter how much money they have, how much status quo they have, how much I'm happy in a million other ways with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a hard lesson learned for me.
Yeah.
But if I can leave a marriage of 18 years, I can leave behind any other relationship that is not morally aligned and ethical to who and what I am now.
Yeah.
And where it is that I'm going to add value to the world, because anyone can say all these things.
Yeah.
But actions do truly speak louder than words. And for me, money comes and goes. I've been homeless and I've had a shit ton of money, and I've been humbled through this market again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
I will never let that be the determining factor for what it is I tolerate. Once again, I'm not tolerating behaviors anymore.
Yeah.
I would never expect perfection, but I do expect respect.
Yeah, Betty and
And
I just
honesty.
I love that. Respect and honesty,
Respect and
Yep.
honesty.
and not tolerating not having respect and honesty.
Yeah.
We just had a situation with friends where friends disagreed. One friend tried to apologize, and the other friend really disrespectful and rude.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Betty are like, holy shit,
Yeah.
we love both of them. That was handled really poorly.
Yeah.
Really poorly. And they're like, hey, stop getting in the middle. And we're like, no, like, we love you both. And this is not,
But
that's
I
not how you
can't
treat people.
unsee what I just saw.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the hard part, is you can love someone. It doesn't matter if it's 18 years. Let's just go back to
Yeah.
the length of my marriage.
Yeah.
The minute you see something you can't unsee, with taking into consideration, we're all perfectly imperfect beings,
Mhm.
but it goes back to the intention.
Yeah.
Was it malicious? And given the opportunity to come clean and or make it right, did they?
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's who someone is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, had this person offended me and then come and said, I'm sorry, I would have been
Exactly.
like, I'm really offended. And
Yes.
I bet you did it accidentally. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Right? Win friends and how to win friends and influence people. One of the best books ever written talks about letting people save face.
I
Even if
love
they
that.
intentionally hurt you, they're
Yes.
probably in a bad state of mind.
Exactly.
If they come and apologize, it's like, I love you. We're friends.
And it's genuine.
If it's genuine, I value who you are as a person, and I'm going to accept your apology, get outside of my head,
Yep.
and treat you well. Or
100%.
even if they don't apologize, I'm going to treat people with respect.
Mhm.
You know, I've had people offend me, and they absolutely have not apologized.
Yep.
And I'm not going to talk shit. I'm not going to post stuff on Facebook about them.
Ditto.
And I think that tells a lot about who people are.
Yep.
And what's important in their life. Our relationships and respect, do they have integrity?
Yeah.
Or are they more worried about their hurt feelings?
Well, and to me, it's more than making a mistake or hurting someone's feelings, or, you know, those two are opportunities to grow. If I come to someone without blaming, without shaming, with giving them the opportunity to come clean and be honest, and they don't, and not only do they not, but then they project and gaslight you into why I can't believe why you would even ask that. You know, that to me says everything.
Yeah.
That to me is somebody that is not emotionally aligned or emotionally intelligent enough to align with me and my morals and my values. And I don't care what it is you have to offer me. I can get it myself.
Yeah.
I don't need a motherfucker in my life. I want motherfuckers in my life.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Huge difference.
And so when you come from a place of knowing that you got you, and you know that your integrity and your standards for yourself are high, but yet not unattainable.
Right.
Right? Like I mean well, I do well, I act well, and when I don't, I apologize on my own recognizance.
Yep.
Nobody will prompt me for an apology. I will come to you first and say, bitch, I fucked up. I am so sorry. I was having a hard day, but that still doesn't mean that I should have acted that way. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think
accountability is huge.
it's accountable, you know, and I would prefer to live a life where I hold myself accountable to the highest standard I know that I'm capable of, which is pretty high.
Yeah.
And do that for myself and for you so that my relationships can flourish. Once again, going back to the figure eight, it's an energetic flow. And sometimes it's the figure eight of life. Like sometimes we might teeter-totter.
Yeah.
But it's always got to come back. That's the
Right.
apology, right? And then we can then get the momentum that we need to continuously vibe higher together. If you can't serve the ball back to me, I'm serving it to myself anyway. So I might as well be alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Love you, gotta leave you. You know what I mean?
And there's a lot of power in that. And if you can be happy as a person and feel okay leaving any business relationship, personal relationship, there's a lot of power in that.
Yep.
A lot of power in that.
Yep.
So you've said this a few times. You were homeless.
Yeah.
Was this when you were married? Was this before?
No, this was not when I was married. I come from a colorful past. My parents were married and divorced 3 times each. We did a lot of moving around. I had some traumas at a young age.
Mhm.
I was sexually molested 3 times by the age of 12.
Wow.
I grew up really quick in the circumstances that I was in. I watched my mom get the fuck beat out of her by a husband, and
Wow.
I had to go in and literally help her. There was a time he was choking her on the wall, and I had to go in and hit him upside the head with an old rotary or phone off the wall.
Jeez.
So I had a lot of traumas that I was running from. Not running from, just didn't know at that young of an age how to cope with.
Couldn't deal.
Well, how do you?
Yeah.
You're young. You know what I mean? How do you cope with that? Because back then people didn't know the effects to which sexual molesting, they would brush it. Oh, you're okay. Well, it's not happening now. You'll be okay. You know, people didn't know what they didn't know. And everyone did the best they could with what they had. I understand that.
Misinformation.
But there's a lot more information now on how that actually mentally, physically, emotionally, even
affects your development.
chemically
Yeah.
affects you. And so for me, I started experimenting with drugs at a very young age.
Wow.
And I got addicted to meth, and I was homeless by 17.
Wow.
And it was actually out on those streets when I had no person, place, or thing. I was homeless on the same streets that I go out and serve.
So you were here in Salt Lake?
No, Ogden.
Ogden. Okay. Ogden.
And so the very same people that I serve, that's why I do a lot in the homeless community.
Yeah.
and women and battered children and things like that. That's been a lot of my focus. Is I like to make a fuck ton of money and go make a difference.
I love that.
Do you think a homeless person is ever going to come buy a house for me? No, but I pumped a lot of my own fucking hard-earned money into that community because I was them once.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew
And
that.
I know that there's a lot of them. When I was homeless, even though I came from the brokenness of homes, I always knew I was loved.
Yeah.
I always knew I was safe with my parents. I always knew, you know what I mean? They had their
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
But overall, I was in I have a very beautiful, close-knit family. They just didn't know what they didn't know. And their drug was relationships.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
the best ones.
So relationships. So they maybe didn't help you with that trauma. They didn't know how to help you with the trauma. They were too busy with their own issues.
I think it was just kind of brushed under the rug. Like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Back in the day, I mean, it was acknowledged. It was but really nothing, you know? And so, like I said, I don't blame them for that. They didn't know what they didn't know. And I understand that now that I'm a mother. And I used to think, how the fuck could my parents do that? And then I became a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I've made my own mistakes.
Yeah.
And I understand that sometimes we don't know what we don't know either. And we're doing the best we can. But the difference between them and I is I got down and I actually verbalized that to my children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I let them know, like, hey, you know, and you could come to me at any time and your feelings are valid. And, if, you know, let's get you into counseling. Like, there's a difference because now I know better.
Yeah.
So I got to do better.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
But back on going through all of that, I think that I numbed out through trying drugs.
It's very common.
And one that got presented to me was meth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was addicted to meth and homeless in the streets of
And
Ogden.
when did that start? What age?
Very first time I tried meth, I was 12.
Wow.
And I
Holy
was
cow.
introduced
Wow.
by a 21-year-old guy that rented the upstairs half of my mom's house.
Holy cow.
And I tried it one time and my mom knew something was up. And it was bad. I beat the fuck out of my mom because
Wow.
she was trying to get me to go with her to Salt Lake to her boyfriend's for the weekend. And every other weekend, she always let me stay at my friend's. But I think she knew something was up with me. And I was like, why now? Like, go with your boyfriend. Like, you know what I mean? I was just
Yeah.
like this teenager, young, almost 13. And I might have been 13 at that point. I think I was 12, though. And from that point forward, moved up to Ogden. Fast forward,
Mm-hmm.
got into counseling, got into therapy, lived with my dad because my mom was afraid of me in that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
My sister moved up with me because she was given the option to either stay with mom or come with me. She came with me, and I got a boyfriend all through junior high and high school, and his mom was addicted to meth.
Oh, geez.
And although he didn't do drugs that way, he did pot and stuff, but it was Y2K.
Mhm.
And it was the end of the world, and all the computers were going to crash, and the world's going to end, and all
I
these
remember that.
things. And his mom, being a drug addict, he was on the run for weed charges and whatever. So something stupid and minor, but
Mhm.
she gave him meth to sell
Wow.
to go make ends meet. And I remember talking him into doing it. And that is one person I can say the minute I saw him do the drug and hit the pipe, he was addicted. I saw it in his eyes. And in fact, he just barely got clean like 3 years ago.
Wow.
And I carried a lot of guilt for that.
yeah.
Even though it was his mom or whatever I did, I carried a lot of guilt,
It's hard not to.
you know, because I talked him into doing it and it was just going to be fun. And fun turned into every so many weeks. So then every other weekend. And then all of a sudden I'm fucking homeless and me and him are selling drugs to try and get a house. And then we did. And he went to prison. And
Wow.
then I was out on the streets and became
That's-
homeless. But
What do you think was the moment that you're like, I got to change my life?
well, I ended up moving away. I was facing felony charges and on parole and all these things. And I was given the opportunity to move to St. George to get in a program. So I was in an outpatient program down there.
Mhm.
However, I ended up working in Vegas and I relapsed down there. And so I moved back home 2 years later. And as cliche as it sounds, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because once again, I grew up in a beautiful home.
How old were you at that point? Back from Vegas.
20.
Okay.
20, and moved back up to my dad's. And he said, if you're going to live here, you're going to work and you're going to go to counseling and you're going to not have boys sleep over. I mean, here I was 20 years old, been
Yeah.
out on my own for 3 years and whatever. So, I mean, he tough loved the fuck out of me.
That's awesome.
And it was the best thing I ever could have done because my dad, in the middle of all of that, I know I hurt my family a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know they were worried about me every day. My dad would come and find me every 3 months in the ghetto, wherever he could. I'd be in a hotel or something, and
Yeah.
he'd have the maids open the door, and I'd be passed out, naked with drugs and shit all over. I was 80 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I was tiny. I'd go 12 days without sleep.
Jeez.
I was malnutritioned. He literally was thinking about having me kidnapped, professionally kidnapped, to save my life because he would go to the police and they wouldn't do anything unless I got caught. I eventually got caught,
Yeah.
and the system kind of help me save myself from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'd find me in the ghetto and he'd come and take me every 3 months to Planned Parenthood and feed me. And he told me, honey, I can't help you from doing this to yourself, but I can make damn sure that you don't bring my grandkids into this world like this.
Wow.
And so it was because of him that thanks. Have my beautiful babies
Yeah.
at the right place and time. And I didn't have to be one of those people that raised their kids in that environment. Because even though I was in that life, I never robbed from nobody. I never stole from nobody. I have a lot of crazy stories, but
Yeah.
I myself still had that integrity.
Yeah.
It was me, in a sense, kind of punishing myself
Yeah.
for unhealed trauma.
But also
Some
trying
people
to escape
cut,
it.
some people, do other things. They act out in other suicidal ways. And to me, it was like that was my coping mechanism to try and numb it out.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of why I can, relate to all the people in all over Ogden or
Yeah.
anywhere I go, right? I moved a lot. I was put in a lot of situations where I was always the new girl moving around that much when I was little with that many marriages and divorces with the
Right,
parents. So
Right.
I used to not understand that you can positively blame. I positively blame them for putting me in these situations where now I
Mhm.
realize it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Because every one of my clients, it doesn't matter if you're spending $1 million or 100,000 back in the day when that was
I
doable.
know.
Yeah.
Nowadays that's 300, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. And I love them all the same. And I never treat anyone any different because
I
of
love
that.
that.
And I think because of that, I've been able to help connect and help a lot of other people grow. I've done a lot of good in my community and inspired a lot of other people and reminded them that if I can do it, so can you. And I actually have a series and workshops at the office to give them the tools through motivational speaking and having a lot of other TED Talk speakers and other beautiful souls that have very colorful and stories and beautiful
Yeah.
ways to help us grow, come in and give back. And that's because I have been blessed. Even though I've gone through the depths of hell,
Yeah.
I made it out
Would you
and I
say-
found my way back to the light. And I know that it wasn't in vain.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I have a big purpose with that.
Would you say your dad was kind of that love, that unconditional love that kind of,
My dad and my mom, honestly, and my siblings, all of them loved me deeply. But my dad was my rock for sure. And my mom, she loves. She's an unconditional heart for sure. My dad was just more there. And
like, no matter how bad I mess up,
my daddy has
loves
me.
me.
Yeah, but he'll also hand me my fucking ass.
Love that.
As much as he loves me unconditionally, he tough loves me just as much. And, I believe in Newton's law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I had to go through the depths of hell to really fulfill my destiny. And I know that we sell real estate and we're helping, people manifest some of their biggest dreams into reality. And I don't take that for lightly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the reason I specifically don't take it lightly is because when you've gone without 4 walls and a door to keep you safe,
Yeah.
and you've actually been homeless, you know what you're selling them,
Yeah.
right? You're selling them that safety.
So, Amanda, this has been interesting, and I hope that our listeners benefit from your story. I know a lot will.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think people, when they've been through trials, they can better help others if, and this brings us back to one of the first things you said, if you can view that in a positive light. You said you don't like to talk about things you're going through until you've figured out what the lesson is that you need to learn. So homeless, addicted to meth, your dad is your rock, your family loves you unconditionally, you made it out of that, and now you've got this thriving life. I don't want to say real estate business because it's your life.
Yeah.
People love you. People see you as an example of success, of happiness, even though you're going through a divorce, even though you're going through issues. Now you're more true to yourself. And so what I've seen just in this last interview, and then obviously from social media and what I know about you, is you've gone through life being more true to yourself, learning how to overcome these obstacles, sexually abused. I mean, you'd be surprised, almost more than half the people that have been on my podcast have been sexually abused. And I'm terrified. I have a daughter and a son, and then 4 bonus daughters. Betty's 4 daughters.
Yeah.
I would never want to be the parent that says, deal with it, or I don't know how to help you, or just avoids that. I would want to dive in deep with my kids if something like that happened.
Yeah.
My brother was sexually abused, and it put him on a trajectory. 4th grade, he was sexually abused by his teacher in the boys' bathroom. Orchard Elementary in North Salt Lake.
They have an Orchard Elementary in Orem that I went to too.
Okay. So there's all these things that, and my trials and Betty's trials. And, I think a lot of our listeners really enjoy benefiting from what you've learned and what Betty's learned and what we've learned through these trials. So we've talked about minimum standards, moving forward business and life. What is like some advice you would give someone who's in one of those shit trenches right now that, it feels hopeless. It feels like I hate my life. I can't get through this. What's your advice to them?
Well, obviously when you're in those moments, it feels like the world is caving in on you. Like you're alone. It's dark. It's depressing. It's overwhelming. Like, God, I don't know what to do. And we feel like we, a lot of the times, want to be reactive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that tornado, right? You're in it. You're letting the shit hit you. And all you have to do is simply step into the eye of the storm, right? It's 1 millimeter moves. Think about it. 1 millimeter in a plane will put you miles off the trajectory, right? It's the same thing. It doesn't need to be dramatic things. I think sit with it. Is this truly what I believe it to be? Do I know it to be true? How do I know it to be true?
Mm-hmm.
And then that way you can determine, is it your drunk monkey? If so, bitch, slap the bitch and put her to bed. Because a lot of the times it is. We think we know when we don't know
it's
sometimes.
Just anxiety and nervousness about the
future.
future.
The energy of the world, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all energy.
Having
That's all we
ability
are.
to like sit in the feeling and let yourself feel it.
And I think that's it. You have to feel it to heal it, but you also have to move the fuck on.
Yeah.
You have to face it and say it, fuck you, and fuck you in its face.
Mm-hmm.
You can run, but all that's doing is kicking that can down the road. You know what I mean? So you need to feel it to heal it. You have to face it for the facts that it is, not what your drunk monkey makes it up to be.
Yep.
But also time, right? Go to fucking bed. Take a nap. Go on a run. Do all the stupid things that
Go
are
to
so
therapy.
simple.
Yeah.
So simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, go to therapy. Ask for help.
Yeah.
If you're feeling a certain way, and say it has to do with someone else, don't assume you know until you know.
Yeah.
And once you know, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And if you say it without blaming or shaming that other person, then you know that you did your part. Now, whether or not they want to meet you there and do the work to keep growing or keep this relationship healthy, that's on them. But I will tell you one thing. I will never carry another relationship in my life. I will contribute.
I love that.
And vice versa.
Yep.
I would never want to be carried. I want them to contribute. And that is through the highs and the lows and the ebbs and the flows. And I think that when we do the work for ourselves and we're good with us, we can be good for others.
I love that.
But until we're willing to look at the man or the woman in the mirror and fix what we don't like, people are going to continue to go around and hurt and blame and shame and bleed onto other people.
Yeah.
But guess what? No matter what, if you're going through it and you truly love yourself, that means holding yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk to others and want to hold them accountable, don't blame, don't shame, and let the cards land where they land. And don't be in love with the idea of what you thought it was supposed to be. Be in love with the presence.
Yeah. And be okay
and
with
what it is.
It not being what you had hoped it
And
to
be okay walking away from any person, place, or thing that does not serve you.
Yeah. And I think if you do that,
You know,
at the same time as being willing to accept criticism for
100%.
Yeah.
self-improvement.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, that's all you can really control is
Do you
who
know
you
how many
become as a person.
like
Things
having a
that
hard
we can
talk.
do that are at their fingertips on the little phones that we walk around that can help us
Mm-hmm.
evolve into who it is we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I always say there's 3 things you can control, and I'm going to leave it with this.
Mhm.
Your attitude, your effort, and your mindset. And once you know better, you owe it to yourselves and others to do better.
I love that.
And if you don't, you might as well be beating your own ass and not blaming them.
I love that.
I love that.
You know?
It's like we go through afraid of like avoiding the hard questions
Yeah.
because you already know the answer. Like
Or you
I-
think you know.
I think most people know the answer and they don't want to talk about it, so they avoid
Yeah.
it, and then just kind of builds, and then your mind sets off, and then your ability to cope is off, and then your things that you need to do you procrastinate, and then if you just actually sit with it and decide I'm just gonna be happy and have the hard conversation and accept,
Yeah.
you can only control your
Your side.
your side.
Exactly.
You can only do everything.
Which
that
comes
you can
back
do.
to suffer or surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can surrender that I can have this conversation with you, and what you do with it is your business. And either it serves me or it doesn't. Either I can stay and suffer through it with you, or I can surrender and walk on. And if it's meant to be, it'll come back around. Or if it's not, I'm gonna clear out the space to invite something new that's more aligned at my vibration to come in.
Yeah.
It's the only person, place, or thing that we can really rely on is ourselves.
That's
And
huge.
so I believe it's up to us to be the example to our children, to be the example to our community, to be the example to the world. You know, and that's the only way we're going to get out of this fucking shit trench that the world's in.
It's a huge shit trench.
Yeah.
And there's
Sadly,
lots of shit trenches.
But there's lots of beautiful shit too.
And that's what life is about. You get in a shit trench, improve yourself, get out of it, and have a beautiful life. And then you're better capable of helping others get out of their shit trenches.
Yeah.
They can pull your kids out, your friends, your family members. This has been an amazing interview, and I really
Thank you.
appreciate what you've shared. You've been very honest and open and
Thank you.
just real.
That's all I am.
Just real.
That's all I know how to be.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And your business is hustle and heart. So to conclude, I would love to hear a little bit about why it is that people love working with you and what's your specialty. Tell us about Hustle and Heart.
Well, Hustle and Heart Real Estate Group, I did have a big team actually throughout this shift. I have, it's downsized organically on its own. So it's down to me and one assistant right now. And to be honest, it's perfect for where I'm at.
Sometimes that feels really good.
I'm going
Yeah.
to tell
I've
you,
had teams
sometimes
too.
less is more.
Yeah.
Sometimes less is more, and I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm totally okay with it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, they all thanked me. Thank you for helping me grow. We all know it's a tough market, so they want more of the pie, and it is what it is, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But my specialty is, honestly, I love helping people manifest those homeownership dreams in reality because of what I shared with you. I know what it means to people. Like I've seen my clients gratitude, like crying and tears of joy and accomplishing things that they never knew that they could. You guys, my oldest client bought his first home at like 73. Do you know
Wow.
how fucking cool that was? Like to be a
Wow.
part of that.
It's
He
That's so
never
cool.
thought he would in his day.
Wow.
He's passed on now.
Wow.
But I mean, to carry those moments and those memories, like, is worth more than any of the money that I got out of it. And I
Yeah.
think when you do things from the right place, I don't chase the money chases me at that point.
I love
To
that.
have true
I had a
passion.
Yeah,
I had
it's
a client.
passion.
It's passion. And sorry, let me recap. So basically, not basically. So what you love is helping people, and you're right, buying or selling a home is the biggest transaction someone
Yeah.
will make, and a lot of realtors don't get that.
Yeah.
It is so stressful
Yeah,
or
so
exciting
stressful.
or both.
Yeah.
I
and
love
it's-
it, but it is stressful
Yes.
as fuck.
But for your clients, because it's huge for them.
yeah,
It's their freaking life.
that's what makes
To
it worth
change
it to
someone's
me.
And you
life,
got to
yeah.
connect those dots. And I recently was part of a transaction where they were an expired listing in Clinton. And I was calling my expireds like every good realtor should. And they said, you know what? We're not going to sell anymore. We're filing for bankruptcy.
Ooh.
And I'm looking at the listing like, this is a really sellable house.
Like why?
And I said, please don't.
Yeah.
I'll be over tonight. I will show you how you don't have to file for bankruptcy. Or just wait. Give me a shot. And I went over to their house. I looked at it, and they had 150-something thousand in liens on their house.
Oh wow.
And so I'm sitting there like, I think we can sell it for what you need. You can walk away, break even, but that's better than bankruptcy because they wanted to go buy something else. I'm like, you won't be able to buy it. They
Yeah.
were that uneducated. They didn't even realize that they wouldn't be able to buy their next. They wanted to buy a fifth wheel and
You're like,
live
yeah,
in a
you're
fifth
not
wheel.
gonna get nothing.
Your credit's gonna be in the
You-
shitter.
$0. Yeah. And they're like, oh, shoot, what do we do? The wife's crying and the husband's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, give me a shot. I've actually negotiated down liens before in the past. And it got to the point, and Betty, you remember this, they actually thought they had 90,000 in liens on their house. We get the house under contract, and the title company had missed a few liens, 150,000 in liens.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, holy hell.
Yeah.
But still, they were just like, they were close. So I'm calling their lien holders, pretending like I'm their
On
attorney or something,
Freeway.
on 3 calls with them, trying to get these liens released. And I'm just bullshitting. Like, I'm just like, hey, you're getting nothing. These guys are filing bankruptcy, which actually wasn't bullshitting. It was true.
Yeah.
Release their lien or take $1,000. We had one company that they were owed $53,000, take $1,000 because they were just like, well, I'd rather get something.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we negotiated their liens down, and these guys were super grateful. They walked away with $10,000
Wow.
instead of not getting a
And
bankruptcy.
didn't mess up
Yeah.
their credit.
Didn't mess up their credit. Cried at the closing table,
Mm.
and I was like,
That's why
That's
we do
cool.
what we
That's
do.
what we
"That's
do.
cool."
That's why we do what we do.
Their last realtor told them to file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I told them
They-
not to.
They
And
they had offers and they couldn't. They were walking. They were negative.
But they didn't know what to do with the liens, and I was like, "No, I'll just." And there was a
Negotiate it.
point where we were like 20,000 short still, even just for them to break even. And I was at the point where like, I don't give a fuck. I'll give away my whole commission.
Yeah. To
Because-
save them because
Yeah.
then they're going to be your raving fans for life. But not only that,
And
you
just
did what
'cause
was
it's the
right.
right thing to do.
You did what
I
was
would just
right.
give away my commission because at
Yeah.
that point, like, I'm not going to get paid anyways, and I can save someone's bankruptcy
Yeah.
and save their life,
And save their life.
financial
From,
life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Betty, it was funny. When I met Betty, she was like giving away commissions here to help this person closing costs. I'm like, stop doing that, damn
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But she's got a big heart, and people need what they need, and she likes to step in.
Which is
it's-
beautiful. Which is beautiful. But you know what I've noticed over time is that goes back to what my dad said. There's givers and takers will always take.
Yeah.
And it's
True.
one thing between helping
My
and
clients
another
never asked me.
between enabling.
My clients never asked me to do anything. I did it all because when they demand you lower your commission, they try to take from you. There's a big difference.
Yeah. It's
And
a
sometimes
different,
you
it
still-
comes from a different intention.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to intentions, and they're always felt,
Mhm.
right? People feel real.
Yeah.
I know if I'm genuinely helping somebody,
You'll feel
or
it.
if a sense of entitlement. And to me, that feels different in the way I give. I love to
Huge.
give.
Yep.
I hate to enable because I know that it can ruin people, right?
Yep.
It's condoning to a bad behavior. And no matter where or who they go to, that's going to be always their sense of entitlement. I love to give because I want to, not
love that.
because it's expected of me. And I will give the world to the people that appreciate me for doing that. You know what I mean? When I want to, on my terms now, not when it's demanded.
I love
Fucking
that.
hate that.
I'm exactly the same way. I love to give, not when they're entitled or demanding it.
Yeah.
So back to hustle and heart.
Yeah.
You and an assistant now,
Yes.
crushing it.
Yep.
What areas do you focus on? Do you work with investors, first-time home buyers, everything in between?
Everything in between, to be honest. My specialty is obviously residential along the Wasatch Front, but obviously I can sell anything in the state of Utah. But I love my greater Ogden community. I love the Wasatch Front. It's where I'm more specialized. It's my heart and my soul, to be honest, is the home. I could make a fuck ton of money, if I did pivot and pursue, which is something that I would love to explore as I grow and go down this real estate rainbow road. As I'm always willing to learn. I'm an excellent teacher, but I'll always forever be a student.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you can sell anywhere. Your clients, I know, are raving fans because I've seen all the reviews.
Yeah.
And
there's very few that aren't. And I'll tell you what, you couldn't pay me 3 times what I made off of never be their agent again. And they know who they are, so I'm not scared.
I have a few like that.
I've done a transaction with you.
Yeah.
And I had a client that was FHA, like we were doing the Ogden grant.
Yep, the Own and Ogden.
And what was super cool is that to work with another agent that our goal is to get this person in the house because we see that they truly need it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just a really fun. I wish all the transactions were like that.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm here to
thank you.
we want this person to be a homeowner. Like the first one in their generation. 5 generations of family, and this is the first time they're a homeowner.
Yep.
That's cool.
And they've got grandma, grandpa, their parents,
yes,
their children living in this house.
That was beautiful. That was a beautiful transaction. That was a flip that one of my best friends did. Yeah, that was a gorgeous home.
Betty, before we end, why do you like Amanda? Why is she so awesome?
I love Amanda because she's so unapologetically her. In every situation, she's always been super kind.
You can tell she's very caring and
she's extremely caring and
authentic.
Being in the industry, there's all sorts of different personalities. But every time I've been in the room with Amanda, she's just like a ball of fire. Like you either want to get closer because it feels good, or you're like, I'm out of here. But she's just all about her energy, and it's always so positive. I've never seen her be negative and spiteful or hurtful. She always fights for the right thing. And she'll say it as loud. She'll put it on the mic. She's just, this is the right thing to do, and you can like me or not, but it's the right thing. And that's what I love about Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah. And when you have your priorities.
You're sweet. Thank you. That's me. That's me.
I love that,
Thank
Betty.
you for seeing me. Thank you for loving me, and thank you for appreciating me and doing that, because you're right. Some people either want to get close to the fire or they're intimidated by it.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, you're intimidated by me. I just love everybody till you give me a reason not to. But
Yeah.
But yes, I definitely fight for what is right. And at least in my perspective, and I think I have a pretty good moral compass, and I don't give a fuck if I end up standing alone.
I was going to say, when you
She's
have
not
morals,
afraid to stand alone.
Yeah.
when you have morals, and I think another big thing that you didn't say, Betty, was you can tell Amanda's a positive, happy person,
Extremely positive, happy person.
right?
You can still go through really, really hard things and still be a good, kind person. And that's super true with Amanda. She could be going through the freaking storm, getting hit at every angle, and she was still
I think
see
the correct
you.
term is shit trench.
Shit trench.
You can say that again. You can be going through
You
this.
can still be in the shit trench and still be kind.
Yeah. And happy and
happy.
positive.
And
Hey, my life is hard,
Yeah.
but
You
it's
can
still
still be
good.
good.
And you can still be happy.
you can
Still
still
can
help.
treat others well and be a light in the room instead of an energy suck.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
that people
there are
that
energy
you can tell
suckers.
she's the opposite of energy
Exactly.
suck.
No, that fire's burning.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can either gravitate towards it and feel that energy, or that energy can be too much for you and you're out. And it's okay because
Yeah.
those people aren't.
If you're a negative
meant to be in the
person,
room.
you're probably
Yes.
not going to hang out with Amanda. I'm just guessing.
Yes.
If you're a negative, if you're an energy suck, you're going to be offended by how positive and happy and fun and yeah, that's what I've noticed as well.
Thank you.
We haven't hung out a lot, but
I think it's thank you. Those are all beautiful compliments. I choose that not because it's easy to. It's been disciplined, right? That's something that I've disciplined over time. It comes naturally, but then also it's a discipline to be that. It's
sometimes
not
you
easy.
have to force it out. Sometimes you have to force the negative energy down and bring out the positive energy
Yes.
by way of habit.
But let me tell you, the decisions that I make are simple. It's not an easy decision to be that way, but it's simple decisions that lead you
Mm-hmm.
to get those desired results and outcome.
Yeah. So I got to go back to a question that I really wanted to ask you when I heard it, but then I got distracted because you had a lot of other good stuff that you said. I've heard a lot of, I have a dad who's a therapist, a friend who's a therapist, and I had a friend do ketamine therapy. So I've been talking to different people about ketamine therapy, and you said you did it, and I'm curious.
Yep.
How was it?
Honestly, it is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it in a therapeutic realm,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I know if people do it in party drugs. I've never done it in that element, but I have done it in a therapeutic environment.
Yeah, that's how our friend did it.
Good. Yeah. And it is absolutely amazing. It's very hard to explain how it works because every experience is so different.
Yeah.
But I have definitely gone through all treatments and then had 2 boosters since. So they do it in
Wow.
6 different treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And they like you to come every other day. And they start you off lower and then they peak you up. And on the 6th one, they do 3 shots.
Can I
Okay.
explain what I think I know about it?
Absolutely.
So our listeners can know.
Absolutely.
So ketamine is a horse tranquilizer, but it's also now listed in the United States and the world in the top 15 to 20 most vital medicines in the world.
I didn't know that it was.
So Huberman podcast, if you guys know who Huberman is, Stanford
Okay.
professor, scientist, neuroscientist.
Yep.
I was listening to his podcast and I just happened on to ketamine.
Yep.
And then I realized our friend did ketamine treatment and I've been hearing a lot about it. So I listened
Yeah.
and I did a bunch more research. I wouldn't say I've been depressed, but I've been through some hard shit.
Yeah.
And
Me
I was
too.
just looking into it a little bit. And so ketamine is a tranquilizer. They use it for surgeries. They use it
'Cause
as an
it's a sedative.
anesthetic. Yep,
Mhm.
it's a sedative. It's anesthesia. But also in a therapeutic way, you can be put into a situation where you're in a room with a therapist. They can sedate you. And there's a word called neuroplasticity. What it does, it literally unlocks your brain to be able to work through trauma, depression, PTSD. And there's a huge amount of employers now in the United States that offer it as part of their health plans.
I love that.
You can get ketamine treatment as part of health because it's become so widely accepted as vital to overcoming those
successful.
type of things. And it's one of the safest drugs you can do as well for that type of thing. You know, you have all these opioids and happy drugs and all these things that
Yes.
people are trying to use
Yep.
that become, they abuse.
So I've done a variety of different kind of spiritual practices over the last 20 years since getting clean, ranging from breath work to a variety of other spiritual medicines. I will tell you, ketamine has been a lifesaver for me. Like, I literally don't think that I would have made it through all of those dark times
You're the second person to say that on this podcast.
without going through that. Like, there was nights I was contemplating my own life
Wow.
in a tub, with stones on me, or breath work just wasn't enough, or some of the other things. So I'm going to tell you my weird analogies, going back to all my crazy visuals, but I love to explain in a variety of ways because I feel like there's different learners out there, right? I'm kind of all of the above.
Analogies and stories are the best way to teach.
Yes. Okay, good.
So
It's all I know how,
teach
just
on.
so you know.
Teach on.
So to me, things like yoga and breath work and all of those things. So life has its storms. let's imagine life has its storms. It's this fucking blizzard outside and it's snowing. Okay. And the snow's coming down and you can't see the roads and you can't see your pathways and you don't know your head from your ass because everything's white.
You're in a shit trench.
Okay. You're in a shit trench and it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yoga, breath work, drinking your water, eating healthy foods, to me, that is like, that's like a shovel,
Yeah.
right? The snow came down. I'm going to go out and shovel. Okay, it's for lighter storms. It's like, okay, you just
Yeah.
got to shovel. It's
like
a
a
lighter
vitamin.
storm.
Daily vitamin.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
gonna cure it, but
And then you got, mushrooms and ayahuasca and a couple other medicines that to me, I feel are more of a snowplow, right? You go out, you grab your fucking snowplow. It's,
Fun nerdy fact:
yeah,
psilocybin also creates neuroplasticity.
yes.
That's why
in
they're
a
doing
different way, though.
Yeah.
a different way.
Because you got to think ayahuasca is the mother, right? And mushrooms are the father,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyways, back to ketamine. Ketamine is like a fucking snowplow.
Yeah.
Talk about neuroplasty.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's like you go through and you're like, oh my God, this is like acid and mushrooms mixed and it creates this crazy experience.
Yeah.
My first shot that I ever got, it was so crazy because I was so scared.
So hold on, you're in a dark room, right?
Yeah.
You have your eyes covered?
You
Or
can
no?
do whatever you want.
Okay.
There's rooms that are completely dark. There's rooms with beanbags. There's rooms.
Did you have a
with,
therapist next to you or
I did not.
guiding you? Okay.
Nope.
So
I
they're
did
just-
it myself.
Okay.
And
In
I
a dark room?
actually, in a dark room. My very first time, I actually had my assistant drive me because you cannot drive. You have to
Yeah.
have a driver.
You're
Things were
tranquilized.
not good through me and my ex.
Okay.
And even though we were together then, it was just not good. So she came in. Craziest part, and I'll tell you at the end.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was crazy. But so it's 2 shots the first time, okay? And the first side, it was my left side, which is the feminine side, right? So it created this crazy, I was like, okay, here I go. And I had my books, my stones. I had her reading my letters to myself and all these things that I've done on some spiritual retreats. And everything's pink and warm and I'm just like in water and I love my baths. You know this.
Mhm.
I like wash all the energies of the day being in my bath. So I'm like, oh, this is so
It's your
comfortable.
grounding spot.
But I was scared to do this because I
Yeah.
was like, am I crazy for doing this? Is it going to make me go crazy?
Yeah.
I'm going to relive these traumas that I've, obviously had issues with in the past that I feel like has been gone, but I know that there's some resin in the soul there.
Mm-hmm.
Plus more traumas were coming in during this time. And so it was coming in faster
You
than I
needed a
could scoop it
snowplow.
out. I
Yeah.
needed to plow that
You're-
bitch.
you're
I
like-
needed to get plowed. Okay.
You needed a plow. And you
That
needed
is
to
what
get plowed.
happened. I need to get plowed and not in that way. But yes. And so I realized I was in the womb.
Mhm. Wow.
I was in my mother's womb. So it took me back to the very beginning of time.
Wow.
The next shot on the opposite side, which is your masculine, came in and everything went like literally robotic, like looked like your wall. Like everything was so crazy. And I was like, oh fuck. Like what is going
Wow.
on? Like what am I gonna see the
Like
devil? What is going
visuals
on?
and-
Oh yeah, it's visual. You can hear sounds, like it's body, it's all of it. And I was nervous to do this because mind you, I'd been clean for 20 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't natural like some of those other, spiritual medicines. And I was scared.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I knew that I just had a
Had to do
calling.
something.
I had
Yeah.
a calling. Just like any other spiritual medicines, you have a calling.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't natural, I had to do it. And so I did. And going fast forward, like I did it again just a month and a half ago.
Oh wow.
And it's healed me. And every experience is so different, but the overall tone is life is forever flowing. Like in some of these scenes, you want to stop. None of my scenes ever stop. Like it's like literally like the Matrix for me, where it just keeps flowing. And that was
Yeah.
my lesson, is just to keep flowing because everything is ever evolving. But what it does is it takes you, the craziest thing is even though you have these visuals and they have nothing to do with the actual experience itself,
Mhm.
it takes you from experiencing it within first person to an out of body. So it's a disassociative.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
disassociates.
So it disassociates you. So it takes you from being in it to being the observer of. And the craziest part is I was worried about having to relive these traumas or relive these things. But what you're seeing has nothing to do with the trauma itself, but it's a knowing and a appreciation and a gratitude. And like, I would be knowing what it was telling me,
Yeah.
knowing what it was working me through or helping me work through without having to relive it. It was a fucking knowing.
Wow.
Do you feel
That's
like
huge.
And it gave me a gratitude. And it was tears of gratitude and love and joy rather than tears of resent and fear and rejection and all those
Yeah.
low vibration. It is fucking wild. And I highly recommend it to anyone.
I
So
love
in
that.
addition to what you said about it, just so you know, it was actually developed. And the reason I got turned on to ketamine is because one of my buddies is a veteran.
Mhm.
And he owned it because a lot of veterans commit
Yeah.
suicide. They only acknowledge 22 a day, but many
Right.
more
There's
do.
way more.
way more? Yeah.
And 22 is my
'Cause
lucky
they can't
number.
count all the other circumstances that are
Yes.
involved. Yeah.
Yes.
So
But it was also designed to help all the veterans
yeah.
coming back for more.
Well, they've done research. So PTSD and depression, what's happened in your brain is you're too
stuck.
closely connected to that memory.
Yeah.
To your brain is just there's too much activity between that
Oh,
core
that's-
memory, that trauma, and your active brain. And so you've got this depression or PTSD, and what it does is it disassociates.
Yeah.
You just described it.
Yep.
You're able to heal and pull away from that PTSD,
Yep.
To
pull
know that
away
it
from
was-
that trauma.
It was a past event. So it's like
It's crazy,
like
though,
your
'cause a
ability
lot of-
to- and that's depression. It's like you're so stuck on
Mhm.
what happened or
Yep.
what's going to happen that you can't like live in the present. You can't see up,
Can't have
down,
hope for the
right.
future. You
And
can't
then
get
being
the-
able to disassociate and then like look down and be like, okay, this is just a moment. These are feelings, but I have a whole fucking life to live.
What's
So I
interesting?
love that because that is where I'm at right now. Is it brought me into the present. That along with some other beautiful relationships that I've developed throughout this. But I realized that the presence and my presence to you, the reason I've always looked people in the eyes and I've learned how to put down my phone now or whatever is that is my present. My presence is my present to you. And your
Mhm.
presence is your present to me. And when you have been through so much PTSD, like I have, and so many traumas, both childhood all the way up to, or you know what I mean, recently,
Yeah.
it's easy to try to disassociate. And I've always kept my body here, but in a weird sense, I've always come back, but I have to work through that in a healthy way so that I don't self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will check out through drugs, sex, rock and roll, alcohol, like whatever it is in
Yeah.
very unhealthy ways. And that is, I've learned from that. And once I know better, I got to do
Crazy.
better. So like, this
I
is a
love that.
good way for me to do that. And so something else that they say on that and something else I've experienced is the neural pathways. It's kind of like a beaten down trail on a mountain.
Mhm.
You create these loops, these thought patterns.
Mhm.
And what it does is it gives it a chance to all grow back fresh.
Create new ways.
So you can create new
Yep.
new ways,
That's the
new neural
definition
pathways.
of neuroplasticity.
100%.
Oh, I butcher that. Neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before you're 25 years old, you can, like you said, that if there's a trail in your brain forest,
That's how I feel.
you can literally just regrow it and create
Yeah.
a new trail.
Yeah.
After age 25 or after PTSD or trauma, you're that's cut in stone.
Yeah.
And what psilocybin and ketamine have allowed people to do is kind of regrow that trail.
Yep.
And decide the new trail that they want to build.
And I could tell you,
I love that.
I have a beautiful motherfucking forest going on.
Hell yeah.
It's like up here, not out there.
I'll drink to that.
Drink to that.
Growing a new
Let's do that.
forest. Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
I love it. I love it. Amen. Amen to that. Well,
I love this. And,
yeah, I could do this all day.
well, we'll do another one.
We'll have to.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you
you're
so
welcome.
much,
Yeah.
everyone. Amanda with Hustle and Heart
Yep.
Real Estate, our friend Betty Jo. Thank you so much for being my co-host.
Mm-hmm.
And,
She's so good.
We're going to film another one with Betty here pretty soon. We got
Good.
a little bit way through Betty's story on Friday, and we've got a lot more to tell. So I'm really excited for
Good.
both of your episodes to come out,
Yeah.
probably in middle of May to end of May.
Cool.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Well, once again, Amanda, thank you so much for
You're
being
so
who you
welcome.
are, being
Thank you.
authentic, positive and happy and
you.
magnetic
Thank you.
and a great person.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you for just always answering me.
Yeah.
I was like, you connect with people, and sometimes I'm just like, I'm kind of like the poker, like, hey, I want to hang out with you.
And
So-
anytime,
So
babe,
thanks
anytime.
for always like, because that's all I did. I bugged the crap out of her. Like,
Yeah.
hi, you want to
Well,
hang out
let's
today?
finish this one thing because I didn't
Yes.
ask you this.
Okay.
Why do you think Betty's awesome?
Oh my gosh.
I love that. You know what? Betty Joe.
Hold on, here we go. We got another 40 minutes to go. Just kidding.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's cute. I love
You're
that.
adorable.
No, honestly, Betty Joe I felt her. I have this blessing and this curse to feel people on the soul level. And sometimes I can fall in love with people's potential. But you know what? Who I've always known she's always shown up as.
Yeah.
Which is, she is 100% ride or die. She is the most beautiful fucking mother. She's the most beautiful friend. She always checks in. She means what she says. She says what she means. She shows up when she says she's going to, and then some.
Thank you.
And even though, maybe we're not the closest or whatever because of distance, but we're always there. And you are someone that I can tell you, I know will always be there for me. And you've proven that. Not that I needed you to, but I just know that. And you've done it through your actions. So thank you for always being so loving, so kind, so humbling, so willing to share yourself with me and to be there for me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
no,
love
you did. And you did in ways that maybe in the moment you didn't know, but when I was having a hard time, like, you really helped me. So thank you.
Aw.
I
Love
mean
you.
that for real.
You guys can hug now if you want.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And
Because I'm a hugger. I'm like,